The case took place in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The investigation was challenging after a man was found dead in an isolated location. The crime occurred on a quiet stretch of road, and detectives had to quickly identify the victim and uncover the cause that led to the deadly confrontation. A deserted road amid an empty plot of land south of the Oklahoma suburbs. 10:20 p.m. A call comes in from a local resident reporting an abandoned car blocking the road, with a man inside who appears to have been fatally shot. Police rush to the scene as quickly as possible. The location where the car was found lies outside any residential area, lacking streetlights or proper roads. Officers deploy a significant force and multiple floodlights to illuminate the scene. The caller is a resident of a nearby temporary housing area for low-income workers, roughly 2 kilometers away, who was returning home from work. I usually take this road around this time because it's a shortcut to my residence, rather than using the main road. The car was blocking my way, so I got out to check. When I shined my flashlight on it, I saw him in that state and immediately called the police. Were there any suspicious people or vehicles around when you discovered the victim? No, it was very dark, and I only had a flashlight to see. I couldn't observe the entire area, but everything was silent until the police arrived, so I don't think there was anyone else around. The victim's body was already stiff, sitting upright in the driver's seat with wide open eyes. He had been shot multiple times, with blood soaking through his shirt and pooling on the seat, while splatters covered the steering wheel and inside of the windshield. The driver's side window had a large, shattered section. On the ground lay a thick glass bottle, alongside fragments from both the bottle and the car window scattered everywhere. The perpetrator likely knew the victim, or this could have been a premeditated ambush. Even though the window was shattered, the victim showed no signs of fleeing or resistance. His face still reflected shock. If a stranger approached and broke your car window, you wouldn't just sit there without reacting. The car had no signs of malfunction. If the victim was incapacitated or unable to escape due to health reasons, we'll need the autopsy results from the medical examiner to confirm that. Once the scene was documented and all crucial photos taken, the victim's body was carefully removed from the vehicle. Judging from the stiffness, the time of death was estimated to be 6 to 7 hours prior. Several shell casings were found just outside the driver's side door and underneath the car, typical of bullets used by violent offenders in the area. Suspicious shoe prints were also found in the dirt, likely left by the perpetrator. They were size 8.5, an average adult male size, and were collected for further analysis to determine the type of shoe used. Fingerprints on the glass bottle were gathered for further investigation. Upon inspecting the victim's body, the police discovered a wallet and a phone. The wallet contained cash, a bank card, and some other identification documents. This allowed them to confirm the victim's identity as Robert Allen, 32 years old, residing in the city center. The phone could be a crucial piece of evidence to help identify the perpetrator. By checking Allen's background in the system, police found he had a previous record for involvement in drug trafficking and maintained a complex web of connections. However, a notable detail emerged. Since his release from jail, Allen had genuinely been making efforts to turn his life around. Detective Reynolds went to meet the victim's family, where Allen's wife answered the door with a look of utter despair, almost breaking down. She was holding their 2-month-old baby, who was sound asleep and unaware that they had just lost their beloved father forever. Allen truly changed when our baby was born. He gave up everything from the past, overcame his addiction, secured a stable job, came home on time, and no longer associated with anyone like before. When asked about any recent conflicts or troubling associations, the wife revealed that Allen had been receiving harassing calls from former members of the drug ring, despite telling them firmly that he no longer wanted anything to do with that life. I overheard him yelling on the phone at someone, telling them he didn't have any information left and wouldn't assist them in their shady activities anymore. That call happened about 3 days ago, and he was still upset about it. Alan had left the house in the morning to go to the store, and when he did not return as expected, his wife grew worried and repeatedly tried calling him, but no one answered until the police notified her. Using the address provided, police went to Alan's workplace to search for more leads. At the same time, the investigation of the victim's phone revealed that he had blocked numerous numbers. Even though he was using a new SIM card, he still couldn't escape harassment from his past connections. The numbers he blocked had all been deactivated and were traced to various foreign identities, making them difficult to link to actual users. This method is often used by criminals involved in drug trafficking, arms dealing, and other illicit activities to erase evidence and cover their tracks. However, in the trash folder of the phone's messaging app, the police found a series of threatening texts. The sender was trying to drag Alan back to his old ways, but Alan didn't respond and blocked the number. This number, along with others, was investigated by the police. This time they found a new lead. The number was linked to someone named Kevin, a known criminal with a record of violence and minor public disturbances, although he had no previous involvement in trafficking illicit goods. Kevin's profile was immediately pulled up. At Alan's workplace, his direct manager confirmed that Alan had come in that morning but requested time off after lunch and could not be reached afterward. Did anyone unusual come to see him, or did Alan show any signs of distress? I did hear some coworkers gossiping about his case. They said someone came looking for him around lunchtime, and then Alan asked for permission to leave and didn't come back. The person who came to find Alan was likely the perpetrator, or someone with knowledge of the crime. It could have been one of Alan's past associates whose number had been blocked and who tracked him down at work, lured him to the crime scene, and murdered him. The timeline provided guided the police's next steps. Detective Moreno visited the control room at Alan's company, and with the manager's help, quickly extracted surveillance footage showing Alan and the person who came to see him on the day of the incident. Information on Kevin was soon uncovered. His address was in a rundown neighborhood with a high crime rate, and if he was indeed the perpetrator, he was likely planning to flee. The police prepared a tactical operation and closely monitored the entrance of the small, shabby house. The complex terrain makes it easy for criminals to escape in any direction, and in a socially unstable area like this, even a small provocation could help him get away. After some time, Kevin finally appeared, entering the house looking exhausted and defeated. With the target confirmed and officers in position, the arrest operation began immediately. Realizing the situation, Kevin tried to flee, pushing down the flimsy front door and running outside, but it was too late. He was surrounded and couldn't put up any resistance. Kevin was quickly apprehended and brought to the station for questioning. However, the police noticed something alarming. Kevin was gravely injured with blood soaking his t-shirt from a wound in his abdomen. He soon collapsed. At the hospital, Kevin was rushed into the emergency recovery room. He had been stabbed twice in the abdomen and had yet to regain consciousness after surgery. Meanwhile, reviewing the footage extracted from Alan's company, Detective Moreno noticed something unusual. The person who came to see Alan at work wasn't Kevin, but someone else. Alan was notified by security that someone was there to see him, and he stepped outside to meet the visitor. The two had a tense conversation for quite a while before Alan returned to the company and the visitor left. It appeared they had reached some sort of agreement. Right after, Alan asked his manager for permission to leave. Additionally, from a distance on the footage, the detective noticed Kevin lurking and observing them from behind. The case was becoming increasingly difficult to decipher. Kevin was clearly involved in Alan's murder, but why was he now injured with near-fatal wounds? Could it be connected to the case? What was the relationship between the person who met with Alan and the two men? Everything needed to be investigated thoroughly. When searching Kevin's belongings after his arrest, the police found his phone, which prominently displayed a frequent contact and the last person to call him before he was found stabbed and captured. The name in his contacts was Jen, seemingly Kevin's superior. The call log revealed multiple calls, overlapping with the timeline of Alan's murder and the messages Kevin sent to Alan. Cross-referencing the phone number, the police discovered that Jen had also called Alan once before after his release from prison, a call Alan blocked immediately afterward. Investigating the phone number, the police traced it back to a profile for Jen, who was revealed to be Jason Carter, a notorious drug trafficker in the area. Although previously arrested, there was never enough evidence to convict him. Jen is cunning, smart, and knows how to manipulate others to cover his tracks. No one dares to testify against him. It was highly likely that he orchestrated Alan's murder. We need concrete evidence to charge Ace with Alan's murder. He has evaded the law multiple times. We can't let him escape this time. The Anti-Drug Investigation Unit quickly provided and consolidated information on Jen's whereabouts. He resided in a luxury apartment in an upscale area. Police arrived at his home with a summons for questioning. Jen, calm and defiant, opened the door. He accepted the summons, locked his door, and climbed into the police car without resistance. He showed no surprise upon hearing the news of Alan's death. He was smart enough to know that fleeing would only heighten the police's suspicions against him. Therefore, he voluntarily accompanied the police. For a criminal like him, without knowing the leverage he held, it would be difficult to bring him to justice. Jen sat in the interrogation room, casually denying any involvement in Alan's death and Kevin's stabbing. "I came to see Alan just because I knew he was out of prison. I wanted to invite him to hang out, but he refused and was rather excessive. I had no idea who killed him." When asked about his alibi, he claimed to have returned home immediately afterward, and since he lived alone, there was no one to corroborate his story, thus failing to establish an alibi. However, when Detective Moreno mentioned that Kevin had not died and was still in the hospital, Jen's expression changed, and despite continuously denying any wrongdoing, this reaction did not escape the keen observations of the police. Nevertheless, the lack of sufficient evidence forced the police to release him. A team of investigators was assigned to monitor Jen after he returned home. At that moment, in the hospital, Kevin had regained consciousness. In a state of extreme fear during the police interrogation, he repeatedly denied killing Alan and instead claimed that Jen was the one who murdered him. "I have proof. Jen was my direct supervisor in the drug trafficking operation, and Alan was too. We were both his subordinates." After Alan was released from prison, Jen could no longer contact him and began using me as a means of communication because he knew Alan still had loyalty to me. So he tasked me with convincing him to return to the organization. But Alan refused, and so Jen started threatening him, pulling out some debt documents that he had forced Alan to sign before, and pressuring him to repay the huge debt or return to work for him. When Alan refused to do either, he killed him. After that, I had evidence of his murder, so he sent someone to kill me to cover his tracks. Based on Kevin's testimony, the police immediately issued an arrest warrant for Jen. When the police stormed into his home, Jen was packing clothes and belongings for his escape plan. Upon learning that Kevin was still alive, he realized his chances of being exposed were high, so he needed to flee before being caught. But it was too late. The police burst into the house. Jen grabbed a gun and began shooting back, but he was alone and was quickly subdued and handcuffed before being taken to the police station for questioning. Kevin provided the police with the most convincing evidence, which was a video capturing the moment Jen killed Alan that afternoon. Kevin wanted to use this video to threaten Jen, as he wished to extricate himself from Jen's criminal organization and didn't want to continue down that path. However, Jen's brutal nature had surfaced, putting Kevin's life in danger. Jen could no longer deny it. He almost went mad in the interrogation room and began to explain everything, claiming he had no intention of killing Alan. It was all accidental, and that he only meant to frighten Kevin. But it was useless. He could not justify the crime he had committed. His wrongdoings would be investigated further, and all crimes must be brought to light. The law would always be enforced, regardless of the circumstances. Alan's family received the investigation results, but that could not ease their profound loss.